Hello everyone. In our last video, we got introduced with Theodore Dreiser and some of his works. Now let's move forward. We will talk about some of his other works, and one of the most famous work, Sister Carrie, that is prescribed there in the syllabus. See, Theodore Dreiser also wrote some dramas. One is Plays of the Natural and Supernatural. In 1916, Plays of the Natural and Supernatural. Just by remembering Wordsworth and Coleridge, you can, remember this title of the play. Plays of the Natural and Supernatural. And for remembering the year, you can remember the poem by W.B. Yeats, that is Easter 1916. Okay, the other drama by Dreiser is The Hand of the Potter in 1918. When we talk of his poetry, there is one collection of 127 poems, and its name is Moods, Cadenced and Declaimed. Moods, Cadenced and Declaimed, published in 1926. He wrote several non-fictions. I didn't write all the names. Some of the names that I have enlisted here. One is Hey Rub a Dub Dub. That is the name. Hey Rub a Dub Dub. A book of the mystery and wonder and terror of life. This is the name of a non-fiction. The other ones are My City in 1929, Dawn in 1931, and there is one more non-fiction that I thought to discuss, is about a book about myself, that was published in 1922. 1922 is very famous, you can say, year in the history of English literature, because this was the time when The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot and Ulysses by James Joyce were published in the same year. 1922 is considered to be a very, remarkable year in the history of English literature. Okay, we are discussing with American novelists, not with the Britishers ones, but of course we must talk about them if such points come. Let's move to today's main topic, that is Sister Carrie, the novel, the second novel. Second or first? I think first. Yes. That is published in 1900. And it is considered to be greatest of all American urban novels. Greatest of all American urban novels. And in that manner you can talk of this, that the genre of this novel is the urban novel. Actually, this is eponymous one. This is an eponymous novel because Sister Carrie is the name of the protagonist as well, and that is the name of the novel also. It is about a young country girl. So she belongs to village initially. It is about a young country girl who moves to the big city. What is the name of that big city? Chicago initially. It is about a young country girl who moves to the big city where she starts realizing her own American dream. She is having some dream for her coming future. But here, specifically, it is mentioned that she is having her own American dream. And American dream is there in inverted comma. It means American dream stands for something else, not in a very simpler manner. It connotes a deeper meaning. See, American dream is a very famous phrase in the history of America. We'll discuss about it. So, first, as a mistress to man, see, this is how she starts her life. She becomes kept of men, means more than one, that she perceives as superior. So for her economic security and all kind of comforts, she becomes mistress of men and later becoming a famous actress. In later phase of her life, she becomes an actress. So the main thing is that here we are having a girl who belongs to a village, who lives in a village, but she, become disinterested. She is, dissatisfied with her situation in the village or country. That's why she decides to leave that village and she moves to the city, initially to Chicago, for realizing her own American dream. So our point of concern is American dream here. See, whenever we have to talk of dream, सपने, कहते हैं ना, सपने वे नहीं होते जो सोने के बाद आते हैं, सपने तो वे होते हैं जो सोने ही नहीं देते. But the thing is that sometimes while realizing a dream, while getting something higher, while getting something that may please us, that may make us happy, sometimes it so happens that we lose something greater. And that's why we become unable to feel that happiness after getting what we really wanted from the beginning. That is what happens with this girl also. Okay, let's talk of American dream. It is a national ethos. Ethos is a very beautiful word. Ethos is a Greek word, stands for character. We discussed about it while discussing Aristotle. It is a national ethos. So a kind of national character that is needed to be understood. It is a national ethos of what? Of which country? Of the United States. The set of ideals. So in that ethos, we have a set of ideals, such as ideals of what? Democracy, rights, liberty, opportunity, and equality. A kind of, as we have the concept of Ram Rajya here, where everybody is equal. As we know, in Ram Rajya, what happens that on the same bank of river, a lion and a goat, they drink water. नदी के एक ही किनारे पर शेर और बकरी दोनों पानी पिए. A kind of, equality that should exist. The kind of assumption that we have of Ramarajya. The similar manner we are having here, American Dream, which is made up of set of ideals that includes democracy, rights, liberty, opportunity, and equality, in which freedom includes. So what kind of freedom? Why do they want freedom? For the opportunity for prosperity, so that the people can become prosperous, the people can become richer. Prosperity, success, as well as an upward social mobility. Very important. Upward social mobility means society should be evolved. So evolution should take place. And for what? For whom? For the family and children. Achieved through, and how this dream, how this equality, liberty, democracy, rights can be realized. This should be done, achieved through hard work in a society with few barriers. Of course, whenever a person lives in a society, he has barriers in his life to confront with. And while after confronting all such hurdles that come in our life, we should realize that kind of ideal, that kind of set of ideals. That is what American Dream talks about. This is what was declared in that Declaration of Independence in the United States of America. A kind of the line that is said by Modi government, while having an election here in India, when they say "Achhe din aane wale hain." So that kind of achhe din, that kind of sapna. And that's why Rajdeep Sardesai says Prime Minister Modi as sapno ka saudagar. So these all things are very much correlated, that we have to understand the political scenario of American Dream in connection with our India. While talking of American Dream, I was reminded of this play also that is very famous by Edward Albee. Edward Albee, the famous dramatist of what kind of genre? Absurd theater. Yes, absurd theater, to which the name of Camus, Sartre, and Samuel Beckett are connected. Edward Albee also belongs to the same genre. So The American Dream is the name of a play as well that was premiered in 1961 actually. That is written here in 1960. So that was the timing, 1960, 61. It is, a one-act play. The American Dream. Okay, so again, come back to Sister Carrie. Let's talk about the characters here. The first one is Caroline Meeber. Caroline Meeber. She is actually, it's written here, AKA Carrie. That is Sister Carrie. The protagonist, she is a young woman. She is actually of 18 years old. A young woman from rural Wisconsin. That is the name of the place to which she belongs. Wisconsin, Wisconsin. Consin. She had a sister there in Chicago, and her name is Minnie Hansen. Minnie Hansen. She is her elder sister. She lives in Chicago, and she manages Carrie's stay after her arrival. Actually, for the first time, when this Caroline Meeber, or you can say Sister Carrie, she goes to Chicago. She stays there with Minnie Hansen and her husband. His name is Sven Hansen. Minnie Hansen and Sven Hansen. There we have a person called Charles H. Drought. He is a visiting salesman. Charles H. Drought. And then see, this person she meets in train. When she was coming to Chicago, she meets Drought there. The most miserable character that I have found in this novel is George W. Hearstwood. George W. Hearstwood. He is a well-to-do man who manages Fitzgerald and Moy's Resort. This is the name of the bars. Fitzgerald and Moy's Resort. He is the manager there. A well-to-do man means he is having sophisticated living, good income. Who? George W. Hearstwood. But you will see how he falls from his good fortune, that ultimately leads him to his death by committing suicide. So George W. Hearstwood, the manager of that resort, and then we have Julia Hearstwood, that is the name of his wife. She is a strong-willed social climbing wife. That's why he has not that much interest in her. And then we have Jessica Hearstwood, that is their daughter. George Hearstwood Jr., that is their son. Then we have Mr. and Mrs. Vance, V-A-N-C-E. Mr. Vance is a wealthy merchant, and Mrs. Vance, his wife. They are the neighbors of Hearstwood and Carrie. We'll see how they become neighbor. Then we have Robert Emmys. R-O-B-E-R-T, Robert Emmys, A-M-A-S. Mrs. Vance's cousin. He is Mrs. Vance's cousin. He is a handsome young scholar whom Carrie regards as a male ideal. So the person who is ideal, a man who is ideal in the eyes of Carrie, is none other than Robert Emmys. Then we have Lola Osborne. Osborne, surname reminds me of John Osborne, the dramatist of the play Look Back in Anger. Lola Osborne, she's a chorus girl. Means, as you know, chorus is there in the play, and the group of people who sings within the play. So she is a chorus girl. She encourages Carrie to become her roommate. While discussing plot, we'll see how these people meet with each other, among one another, and how the story goes. Let's start the plot of the novel. There we have one 18-year-old Caroline's sister, Carrie Meeber. The name is Caroline Meeber. She is known as Sister Carrie. So 18-year-old Caroline Meeber takes train to Chicago to Hanson's place. Hanson's means to the place of her elder sister and her husband. So she has boarded the train for Chicago, and in that train she meets Charles Drought, that is a traveling salesman, as I told you. He gets attracted towards her. Now you should know the reason why is he getting attracted towards her, and that is the irony that we will see in coming time. For her beauty and unspoiled manner. See how initially she is, of course, she is beautiful and unspoiled manner means he likes her manner very much, and that has yet not to be spoiled, and that's why he likes it. And then they have conversation, they exchange contact information, but unable to be in touch. Why? Due to somber environment at her sister's place. Because when she visits her sister's house, she finds the situation not very favorable to her, and so she writes a letter to inform him that you should not try to make contact with me here because the situations are not favorable. But since she is living with her sister, she thinks to pay the rent, and for paying the rent she joins a factory, and that is a shoe factory. There she starts a job of running machine. She finds herself unable to adapt the job's demand because of the physical demand. The fatigue that she has to confront, and the nature of the people there that she could not manage, and she has to lose it ultimately. After falling ill, she becomes ill someday, and then she had to lose it. She by chance again meets Charles Drought. After losing that job, she meets again Charles Drought and finally gets shifted with him. He convinces her to be shifted with him. He goes, he brings her for the dinner and he pays the bill in order to impress her, in order to convince her that he can manage her expenditure. So she finally leaves her sister and gets shifted with this young man, Charles Drought, that too visiting salesman. By the time Drought introduces Carrie to George Hearst, the person whom I was talking about, the most miserable one. George Hearst, the manager of resort. He was unhappy with his married life, so they start having an affair. See, this is how moral degeneration of this girl takes place. She is living there with that person, Charles. What is his name? Charles Drought. He makes her get acquainted with George Hurstwood, who is a manager. And a manager is unhappy with his married life. And then they start having affair. They involve in illicit relationship. The time passes by. Drought tells Carrie one night to play a key role as an actress. He tells her to become a heroine in Augustine Daly's melodrama, and the name of the melodrama is Under the Gaslight. And she did a stunning performance, and everybody appreciated her. And then if all these things happened after this, that revelation took place, everybody knows. George Hurstwood, he had a wife. Her wife knows his relation with Carrie. Even this person Drought also could understand that he was being cuckolded, he was being cheated by her. So after revelation of her relation with Hurstwood, they both flee to Canada. And before fleeing to Canada, he took money from that bar where he was the manager. From Canada, they ultimately settle in New York. They started living there as George and Carrie Wheeler. Means they were living as if they were wife and husband. But the reality was that this Hearst does not remain in same economic position because he has lost his job of that manager that he was there in Chicago. So Carrie loses her interest in him, and that intensifies when she meets C. Here we are having the entry of another new character, that is Robert Emmys, a young scholar from Indiana, and her neighbor's cousin, as I told you. So, because of the downfall of the economic condition of this person, Hearst, she loses her interest in him and she starts taking interest in Robert Emmys. But yes, Robert Emmys is really a young scholar, a good scholar, who introduces her to the idea that, and this point is noticeable, he says her that great art, rather than showy materialism, is worthy of admiration. Means showy materialism should not be paid much attention. Great art, if a person is artist, that art should be ameliorated, that art should be enhanced. While living in New York, Hearst becomes a partner in a saloon. But after only a few years, he has to terminate it because of saloon's landlord's sale of property. See, actually, he starts, having partnership in a saloon, but after some years, after a few years, that landlord of the saloon, he sold that saloons, and ultimately he lost that partnership as well, and his condition becomes worse by and by. He becomes poorer and poorer, and in that condition, ultimately Carrie becomes a chorus girl for earning money, chorus girl in New York theater. She gets shifted with Lola Osborne. Now see, she leaves that person, Hearst, as well. This reminds me of Mera Naam Joker, how a single person is being left by several people in his life, how he is being utilized and being left. And this character of Carrie reminds me of that Moll Flender as well, by Daniel Defoe. Somewhat, not totally. Ultimately, she gets shifted with Lola Osborne, leaving Hearst alone. And what happens to him? Hearst taking odd jobs, falling ill with pneumonia, becoming a beggar. Ultimately, he becomes a beggar, and he had to be in the line of the beggars for having some food and other sort of things, and finally commits suicide in a flop house. And what happens to Sister Carrie? This Carrie, this is something that we have new kind of depiction. In spite of having that much moral degradation that we perceive, she achieves stardom. But yes, with that, finds that money and fame do not satisfy her longings, or bring her happiness, and that nothing will. See, this is the concern. She becomes successful, but she cannot become happy. So having success and having happiness are two different things. Sometimes, why sometimes? Many times, people, are very much confused with these two things. Many times they consider their success as their happiness. No. So she has success, but she is not happy. This novel, Sister Carrie, went against social and moral norms of the time, as Dreiser presented his characters without judging them, as you have already perceived through the story. And that's why, Dreiser got mixed responses from critics. Many of them criticized him for his moral degradations depiction, that he does not show poetic justice to the protagonist. Even if she is morally degraded, she does not get any kind of punishment in her life. Even she, gets that success. But you must notice that she is not happy. So this writer, Dreiser, got mixed responses from critics for his style as well as content. So this is all for today. I hope you have got the story of Sister Carrie. Now it's upon you how to analyze and criticize the text. Thank you.